There have been many incidents and fatal accidents on Britain's railways, some much worse than others. But out of all of them, there's one disaster that perpetuates to this day. Not because of its death toll or because of its inherent tragedy, but because of the mystery of two unidentified passengers and an ominous woman in black. It was 5 AM on the 13th of October 1928. 4 trains were travelling along the Down Line from Gloucester to Bristol in the following order: a goods train belonging to the LMS, a goods train belonging to the GWR, a parcel train belonging to the LMS, and a mail train carrying 60 passengers, also belonging to the LMS. As the faster parcel train took priority over the slower goods, it was decided the 2 goods trains would be shunted to make way for the parcel service. When the LMS goods reached Charfield station, it was ordered to move to the down siding, while the Great Western goods was ordered to move into the siding of the Berkeley Road signal box, the box before Charfield. The parcel service passed by both without incident. However, when the Charfield signalman gave the all-clear to the LMS goods train, it didn't move. The driver had chosen to spend an extra 5 minutes taking on water, something he wasn't booked to do. The original plan was to let both the LMS and GWR goods go once the parcel train had passed, but because of the delay taking on water, the GWR goods had caught up to the LMS goods. With a mail train fast approaching, the Charfield signalman was forced to shunt the Great Western goods into the siding once the LMS goods had gone. Meanwhile, on the mail train, driver E.H. Aldington asked fireman FC Want to look out for the down signal. Want wasn't experienced on this line, and as such didn't know where the signal would be. On top of this, a thick morning fog was starting to form, making it much harder to see ahead. As they approached the signal, Want claimed to have seen the signal light as green, meaning all clear, before continuing to fire the engine. What truly happened in that moment is a mystery. Mechanical fail-safes in place meant the signal could only be set to danger while the points to the siding were occupied, and as the GWR goods was still backing into place, it was impossible for the signal to be set to clear. If it was set to danger, the driver should have slowed down, ready to stop. Regardless, the fireman reported it as clear to the driver and the mail train didn't slow down as a result. The signalman was watching the GWR goods enter the siding when he noticed his track circuit change to occupied, indicating that the mail train was at the signal near the station, only to his horror see it quickly change back to clear, meaning it hadn't stopped. The 2 front vans, the engine and tender of the Great Western goods were still on the line when the mail train approached. The mail driver saw the goods engine and quickly slammed on the brakes and braced for impact. At the same time, an empty LMS goods train was travelling along the upline and had just cleared the bridge. At 20 minutes past 5 in the morning, the mail train collided with the goods engine. The mail engine scraped past the leading goods wagons and collided with the Great Western tender, shoving it into the embankment before hitting the engine, pinning it to the wall of the bridge arch and derailing. It was forced to the right and collided with wagons 9 and 10 of the empty goods train passing through the tunnel on the opposite side. Most of the goods wagons were relatively unscathed. The mail carriages, however, weren't quite as fortunate. The mail train was made up of several old travelling post office vans, a goods van and 4 old passenger coaches, making 11 carriages total. All of them were made up of wood, and all but 3 were still lit using gas lighting. The sudden deceleration made the front 2 vans and the front 2 passenger carriages violently telescope into each other, with the momentum forcing the frames on the forward 2 coaches to bend upwards and come to rest on the bridge wall. Part of the carriage roof and a passenger even ended up landing on top of the bridge. The driver and fireman of the empty goods train felt a sudden jerk, but didn't suspect anything, continuing up the line until they came to a signal ordering them to stop, where they discovered most of their train was missing. The crews of the goods and mail train were both injured but alive, while the guards of the 2 goods trains were thrown around their guards' vans due to the sudden stop. Unfortunately, the worst was yet to come. As locals gathered to help, gas from the carriages started to build up under the bridge, and soon ignited. The wreckage of the carriages and several of the empty goods wagons caught fire. Some reports from witnesses mentioned how they could hear passengers trapped in the wreckage call out for help. Some people even begged to have trapped limbs amputated to avoid burning to death. Lewis Huntley, who'd been travelling with his wife and widowed sister, recounted that his wife had jumped to safety. and he helped a few women free from a trapped compartment before trying to free his sister. His sister was trapped from the waist down and couldn't be freed before the fire reached her, and as such, Huntley had to leave her to die. The flames were said to be over 40 feet tall, and it took 5 hours for firefighters from Gloucester, Bristol and Stroud to get them under control. Author Tom Rolt reported that it took 12 hours for the fire to finally be extinguished. By the time the fire was put out, 7 of the mail train carriages were completely destroyed, along with 8 of the empty goods wagons and 2 of the loaded Great Western goods vans. Nobody's certain how many people were involved in the accident, with many believing 15 died and 23 were injured. However, the official report states 16 died and 41 were injured. It's unknown how many of the deceased died from the initial impact and how many died from the fire. Want and Aldington, who'd survived the ordeal, were put on trial for manslaughter. What's interesting about the case is that neither of them attempted to make excuses, and both solemnly swore that the signal light was green, and with Aldington having worked for the railway for 37 years, his word was taken seriously. Error on behalf of the signalman was completely ruled out, as the only way the signal could have shown green would have been if the signalling cables were weighed down or sabotaged, no evidence of which was ever found. What truly happened that morning still remains a mystery to this day. Further adding to the mystery around the crash were 2 unidentified victims, a young boy and girl, one aged between 4 and 7 and the other a teenager, who were unaccompanied on the train. All of the victims were identified apart from them, with nobody ever coming forward to claim the children despite a nationwide appeal. Rumours spread that there weren't any children involved when a local carpenter who made the coffins for the victims claimed the 2 small ones he had made were for any remains that couldn't be attributed to a specific individual. However, the official incident report does log 2 children as being found at the scene. Both were buried along with the other victims in a mass grave at St James's Church nearby, with the LMS providing the headstone. All the victims' names are listed, with the children being marked as 2 unknown. It's said one woman came forward and claimed them to be her brothers, but the claim was never confirmed. Even more mysterious is the woman in black. After the accident, locals said an elderly woman in a black dress would come to visit the grave several times a year. She would arrive in a chauffeur-driven limousine, visit the grave for a short time and leave. Everyone who saw her said she had an air of sadness about her. Nobody knew who she was or what relation she had to any of the victims. She kept visiting from the year of the accident until the 1960s. Nobody has seen her since. As a result of her visits, many have come up with theories as to who the children were, with some suggesting she was adopting them, while others say that they'd ran away from home after a falling out. I could go on, but there are so many theories and there just isn't enough time in the day. In the end, the Charfield disaster is one of those few rare stories that's not only fascinating in the way that such tragic tales can be, but also surrounded in enough mystery to keep people guessing what really happened to this day. Was the signal green? Who were the unknown children? Who was the woman in black? Facts can only take us so far in such matters. Maybe one day someone will figure it all out. But in the meantime, all we can do is speculate. Subscribe for more.